Here in week 4 of the class, we transition now to prices and specifically look at inflation. Again, we have some general notions of how prices change just based on our class, our principles of macroeconomics class, but obviously we're going to go much more into how the classical market tries to understand um, the fact that if prices are flexible, um, how that then creates inflation. Now, what we do is we start to look at things like, in this chapter, we start to look at things like the velocity of money to determine how much money supply there needs to be. The velocity referring to the fact that the money changes hands multiple times. So if we take the money supply times the velocity, then we can get a number that approximates how much GDP, the dollar value of the GDP, that the money can support. And we do this all to then be able to transition to being able to talk about, um, you know, both the demand side of the money equation, but then also start to look at the fact that the supply is fixed by the central bank. And so we then have to start to talk about the fact that this is going to help us determine the price of money, the interest rate. Now, in this quantity theory for money, what we then start to focus a great deal on then is how much the money supply is growing at. And if the money supply is growing at a faster rate, then we would tend to see higher inflation rates. And if the money supply is more controlled, we would see lower inflation. And then we kind of bring this all together to talk about some of the effects that you probably didn't have enough time to talk about in principles, which would be things like the Fisher effect and just in general talking about this in terms of how inflation as a whole has different kinds of social costs in terms of expectations, and how one of the things that becomes more important is not what the inflation rate is, but what people expected the inflation rate to be and what it then actually was.